greatest thing in life, every word I say to you is from my heart and my soul.
Yeah.
Those who judge me are fools, for the fools control the system. None of my words, I mean, I've watched people twist my words, try to. You know, I remember when fucking Christopher J from Warriors called that parasite was brought with Duke Willis and Doofus farce, right? I said, what the fuck we got this fucking loser in here for? It's a fucking fraud, lying piece of shit. Scammer, grifter. Right? And they are. I watch them all. Even Kellyanne Farkas. Here comes Claudio. Claudio?
Hello, everyone.
What the hell is going on back there?
It's all beautiful.
Wow, look at your back.
Somebody asked me yesterday. Yeah. A 3-hour video, right? So it finished up. We uploaded to Rumble. I pushed up the 2 videos. Both were taken down by Rumbles. So I cut the video. And then I put Claudio's video on the front page of the picture. And guess what? They took it because of the pyramids.
They what?
They took it. So I went, wow. So I went back. I'm going to put your picture with the 2 videos of the pyramids.
Oh.
So the 3 videos, all were published. Rumble took down all the videos.
Except for the one with the pyramids.
Yep.
So I'll want me to send you just the virgin one so you don't have to use my mug?
KL News got a hold of me, and they asked me a question this morning. They said, where's the video? I said, here it is. I put that picture up. It was priceless. So Wanted did a 7-minute video with Moz. I shorted it, but it's 2.5-minute video, right? On 6 steps, right? And I put that in there. It uploaded. I sat there after.
Yeah, so on site it just looks like a travel video or something, eh? So that's a way to get around them then. If you put some, make it look like you're a destination.
And the lady phoned me last night. She sat for 5 hours with me. So I did a video with what's her name? Monica Schaefer?
Yeah, Monica Schaefer.
Yeah. I have a hard time with all these names, right? So Monica Schaefer did a great video with her, being thrown in jail for 9 months, the Holocaust bullshit live.
Yeah, so Monica, I'll just tell them the story. I'll tell them the story. So Monica came to Canada when she was about.
Left, so see ya.
Yeah, I'm moving, Dallas. God almighty. I need a muzzle for that dog in the back there.
I'm gonna put it like this.
No, I don't want to be.
There you go. She's my special breed.
So Monica came to Canada when she was about 10 years old, and from Germany, and her parents and going to school. It was a real challenge because she looked like the typical little German girl, the braids and the traditional dress. And so the kids at school were calling her evil and a Nazi and all of that. So she went home and blamed it on her parents. You know, this is your fault and that kind of thing. So Monica, years later, her home base was Jasper. She was a professional violinist and violin teacher. She started the busking festival in Jasper. She ran for the Green Party. She knew Elizabeth May very well. And then she did some looking into the Holocaust and followed the Ernst Zundel story, which I did as well, where I'm a little older than Monica. But when you followed the Ernst Zundel story, you discovered that somebody could be tried for denying a story, you know. So my thing is, like, as soon as I read that, watching this, you can be tried because you deny an event happening, you know, like, freedom of speech and all of that just goes out the window in this country. So Monica, then, you know, after waking up to that and some time going by, she did a YouTube video, and it was called Sorry Mom About the Holocaust. And it was just a daughter's apology for how her behavior. And she said, both my parents are dead, but just to release my karma, I just want to apologize for my behavior as a young girl towards parents that had absolutely nothing to do with the events that took place. And so she got reprimanded by Elizabeth May. She'd already left the Green Party because of some of Elizabeth May's antics, but Elizabeth May made political hay using Monica Schaefer, saying they cut up her membership card and all that, which she'd already sent it back in. And the city of Jasper, which is a small town thing, and she was very devoted to her town, demonized her, and she had to leave, and just because it was so toxic to live there. And then she went back to Germany to visit her brother, and Germany threw her in jail for that video. And she did, I believe, about 9 months in jail. And her brother, there were 5 siblings in her family, and it was her brother that started waking up. And he's been very public in Germany. And between the two of them, they've spent 9 years in jail. And I think Monica it was less than a year, but he's spent a lot of time and still comes out talking the talk and that kind of thing. And there's also another woman in Germany who's been very outspoken, and I think she's in her 90s, and her name is Ursula Haverbeck. And she'll just come right back out, and they'll slap her back in jail, you know, every so often. So when you know that you know that we can't even have a discussion on that. Monica, she was a Facebook friend of mine before the event, so I did see it all play out in real time. I saw the video go up of Sorry Mom About the Holocaust, and during that time I was also friends with a professor at University of Lethbridge by the name of Anthony Hall. And he and Monica became very close, and he just made a pronouncement saying there's never been an academic investigation into the Holocaust, and why is this? You know, where our information comes solely from media and solely from Hollywood, and you know, there should be some academic investigation. And then shortly after he made that announcement, he went to a convention in New York. It was the 9/11 Truth Convention, and he was staying with Jeremy Rosh Kushel, who was a Jew and a very good friend of his. And while he was gone for that weekend, the head of the B'nai B'rith in Calgary did a very deflammatory against Jews post on Anthony Hall's Facebook. And he happened to notice it, but it had been posted on his Facebook for about 2 hours. And it was enough time for the media to get a hold of it. And of course, they would have had to be informed of it. And he when he got back, he was suspended from his job at Lethbridge University. And it went to trial, and he won the court case. But by the time he got back, was able to go back to his job, it was already a very toxic environment. Yeah. So because it's like a rape case, you know, if your name is associated with rape or Holocaust denial or whatever, then you're tarnished in your profession. So so he ended up retiring after that. But that just shows, you know, the underhandedness of this whole thing, and people aren't held accountable that are really inflicting this thing. You know, for me, you know, as soon as I heard, you know, as I said, you know, it's like saying I don't believe in Santa Claus and they can throw you in jail or something. You know, so the crime is. If you're not promoting the lie, if you're not defending the lie, you can, or defending, we can't have our own opinions on these things. There's certain things that are off limits that you can't have your own opinion. And I find this in the public realm all the time. Certain things are sacred cows that you can't speak out against. And one of the things when I woke up, I was like, going into 9/11 truth, going into JFK assassination, because that was one of the, the most traumatic event of my early childhood. I was in grade 1 at the time, and very traumatic. And the Kennedy family always have this, well, they call it the Kennedy curse, and it just gets ridiculous. How many Kennedys died in plane crashes? They shouldn't be anti-vax or pro-vax. They should be anti-flying, because they've lost 4 members supposedly of their family. They've lost 2 politicians to supposedly an assassination, yet they're still pushing they still run for politics and all of that. So I just spent some time looking into the Kennedy assassination, and I spent hours and hours running through the Zapruder film, looking for the magic bullet, because that was the whole thing. There was a magic bullet that apparently defied the laws of physics and that kind of thing. And then suddenly I just gave my head a shake and said, what I'm not looking at is what doesn't make sense about the whole thing. So finally I looked at it with a new look, and you just made a list of the things, nothing makes sense about it. And then I started doing Google searches, just asking my questions into Mr. Scroogle, and found other opinions, because I was saying to myself, I don't believe, from what I saw, I don't believe there was any assassination. And then that turned me on to somebody by the name of Miles Mathis. And there was a lot of other opinions out there saying that it didn't happen. And one of the things, you find out is the Kennedy family is one of the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati. And who else was on that list? Well, the Rockefellers, the Onassis, Jackie Kennedy's sister married into Illuminati, I think Auchincloss or something like that. So they're very connected to a number of them. And the Miles Mathis article on, calling out the assassination as from his viewpoint of fraud, he titled it The Hidden Kings. And I could never figure out why they were called the Hidden Kings. Why is he using that? And then one day I'm just playing around. I wanted to see if there was any connection between the Rockefellers and the Kennedys. And I just typed in Kennedy and Rockefeller, and up came the alliance of the Kennedy and Rockefellers and the Kingdom of New England. So Rockefellers and Kennedys formed an alliance and created the Kingdom of New England, voted in by the Whig Party, which is the Whig Party is like a political party in England, Ireland, and Scotland, I think. And so they formed their own kingdom. So we're no different. We don't see a lot of that, but and it goes under the radar. The only Rockefeller that was a king was Nelson Rockefeller. The current king of New England is Congressman Joseph Kennedy. So so much goes under the radar. And one of the reasons Rockefeller has always been sort of a big name in our household. I had a younger sister who listened to late night radio shows and stuff like that. So she was down conspiracy road, and we had a friend who lived in New York City along with her sister. She was an opera singer, so she was there to train, and she had to have a day job, so she was working for David Rockefeller as a secretary. and she came home. She never revealed who she was working for. She said she signed non-disclosure contracts, and told us the president is just a puppet, that these wealthy New England families run the so-called government of the United States. And my sister and I always guessed it was Rockefeller, and then she died a year after David Rockefeller. And then but right after he died, she admitted who it was. I guess the fear was over then once he passed. And so she revealed that was who her employer was. And so, you know, when you sort of grow up with that in the back of your mind, you know, by these events that everything isn't what they appear to be. So you know, it was my fortune or misfortune that these kind of things seemed to attract me. My mailman's wife had the highest CSIS clearance at Calgary International Airport. And she said they all signed non-disclosure contracts 6 months in advance of 9/11. They all knew NORAD would be doing training drills that day and the airport would be shut down. So and then, you know, I'm Facebook friends with very like-minded people. I'm not there for small talk on Facebook or to show pictures of my kids. It's quite the opposite. But I'm friends with a lot of people in England, and they said exactly the same thing about the 7/7 bombing. They were running a drill for the exact same event as what was going down. And you know, then you learn Sandy Hook, the exact same thing. It was all a drill. We saw one little photograph of a bunch of kids, you know, in a lineup, and that's supposed to tell us that some traumatic event happened with no other, with a story that's ridiculous. You know, a 99-pound kid that was carrying more military gear and armament into a school. What's that? Well, yeah, and the things that get revealed. Jim Morrison, who would be way before your time there, Laura. Jim Morrison of the Doors, who was sort of an anti-war singer. His father was an admiral, and his father admitted later on that the Gulf of Tonkin, the sinking of the Gulf of Tonkin, was a false flag that got them into the Vietnam War. Yeah, Bay of Tonkin. So, you know, all these things are false flag wars. You know, the obvious one to me was the shooting of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. A man is shot and assassinated, supposedly. I don't believe it. I saw the still photos and it looked ridiculous. But it's justification for millions of men, you know, thousands of Canadian men to go fight a war to defend this assassination, and that justifies losing a lot of the slave class. And my great-grandfather was one of them. So for me, you know, when I see how we glamorize and make heroes out of these people, I do the opposite for my children. When my children were growing up, I go, you know, the fools in our family. I've got to tell you that there's nothing more foolish to get involved in these wars, or you know, and we're not going to make them into something they're not. Unfortunately, they were. You know,
memorized.
Yeah, they were collateral damage for something they knew nothing about. You know, they really had no clue on how the world actually works. And this is all eugenics. Everything that we see is eugenics. These three kings that were involved in World War II, you know, they were all cousins. You know, it's just to reduce the number of the pawns. It's a chess game. Dallas and I saw some movie where the two kings are. It was literally they're playing their pawns against each other, and it was like a game to them. And you know the reality is just we've been so dumbed down and
let me share something with you.
Yes.
So one of the things on my YouTube site, if you go look, in 1964, the Gulf and Tonkin incident took place. The reason why, it was, like you said, a false flag, because they were already having meetings about the signing of the international covenants in 1966. So in 1966, the international covenants, which were going to squash all the corporations, because these signings, they had to make sure people did not hear it. There was no internet back then. So the ICCPR and the ICSCR, coming from the UDHR, were signed. So it's December 19th, 1966, the principles of the UDHR offered hope and inspiration around the world to make a difference in people's lives. So now, so there you go. So there's boom, fake Vietnam War, flood people with the TVs, get them to look over there while we're destroying your rights over here, right, even though those documents are signed. Right. So who's going to go prove it?
So, and the other one, let Laura talk.
So nothing about the Vietnam War was this. I did U.S. Liberty, right?
Pardon?
And I did the U.S. Liberty, right? So I did a story on U.S. Liberty, right?
The U.S. Liberty.
Yeah, and two survivors contacted me. And they said, how do you know this stuff? And they thanked me. And I sat there.
That was the ship that was sunk in the Gulf of Tonkin to create this false flag that drove America into the war with Vietnam.
So during my conference,
yeah,
these two ex-military Navy men, right? They told me they were in the life rafts, and the sharks were fucking ripping them apart in the water, and the fucking Israel cocksuckers, Israel shot them in the water. Their blood was splattered, and I have it on the Backway machine. You can watch the entire video.
Wayback Machine.
It's unbelievable.
The Wayback Machine.
And the federal government says you got to remove that. And I said, go fuck yourself. You know me, right? I'm very direct, right?
Yeah. So the other big false flag that Laura might have a bit of a memory about, I don't know, was
okay. And then we're going to. I appreciate this history. It's very interesting, and this is where we get wrapped in the cycle and the spiral, and we just stay in what has been, and the energy of all of this time we go back into what has been, and the disenfranchisement, when we forget what's underneath of that. So like I want to kind of get to what's underneath of all of this. Like when we have the slurs, when we have the assumptions about people based on their sex, like of belief systems, it's just like I know that we have a lot of power in this room, and the ability you have to be able to share what you have and could carry on and can certainly. I just want to also acknowledge that two Lauras came into the room. Elle, it's awesome to have you here. Laura Marcos as well. I want to acknowledge that you showed up in the middle of an intense conversation or a sharing of information. So I want to acknowledge that we've got amazing contributors here, and it already is recording. And this is a day when I was told that my sharing of a video was anti-Semitic, which is what started the conversation. Before then, we decided to go live before the time for the call was officially here. But Dallas, Wanda, and Ron came to the call early, and then Claudio joined, and the two Lauras came Right after that, Elle, I apologize for saying Elle or saying Laura and not Elle there. But it's an absolute pleasure to have such powerhouses on here. I know that you would each find all of this interesting, and Wanda, I didn't mean to stop you short from going into the next false flag narrative, but if you don't know Jay Walker, I feel like you need to connect with him for certain. Do you know him?
No, I don't. I'll look him up. It's hard to know because I could type his name in and find out on a
I'll make
Facebook.
connections for you.
Okay.
He goes by a different name on Facebook, but he knows more about all of the false flags, and he's actually been in a lawsuit with Bruce Power Plant over the last like 3 years. Basically, I'm not going to disclose any of the information, but he's been targeted. He's a veteran. He has high level training and is able to recognize signs as well as the symbolism that are involved with military operations due to his high level of training. And he's being personally attacked and targeted as he stands up against the corruption and is doing so without knowing what I want to help bring in with the training that I want to offer in terms of breaking down the hierarchy of creation. So we start to see the ideological state apparatuses and repressive state apparatuses upon which all of these constructs we've talked about are based. There's a fly on the screen as well, because I want to actually flip down, Laura, if you are available to have your audio on. I would love for you to be able to just share the perspective you have as an American who has been going down the route of what it means to live in the private and actually call public servants to account. Now may not be the time for that piece of the conversation to take place, as I know that she's got a lot going on.
Hey, Laura. I am so sorry. I'm here at my parents' place and my dad has the TV on and he's a little deaf, so I'm so sorry for all the background noise. But yeah, hey everybody. I've been studying a lot lately with the Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship and Michael Joseph's group. Anybody familiar with them?
Only through the conversation with you or the
okay. So yeah, so basically I just completed their national passport class, which was phenomenal. And I am a national and I have my passport. I've got the passport card, which is really exciting. A lot of great benefits, and their process has been vetted and working for decades. So that felt really good, and it was just very empowering. And I also study a form of private law called equity that uses the law of notice. And it's really very powerful. It's in the Constitution, and it's private. There's no books. There's nothing written. Somebody has to teach you. And it's very much a process of really knowing that you're free in every cell in your body, because the dictionary is the key. Everything that I'm doing is actually in the dictionary, but your energy really literally opens the door, because it's our duty to compel performance by asking the judge or bringing the judge into the equity jurisdiction. And since they have a duty to protect the state secret, which is that there's no real money after the emergency, the banking emergency in the 1930s, that's not my fault, right? But that's just what their legal process is. So the process I study it requires no status, but it uses a very specific aspect of commercial law to settle and discharge any claims against the capital letter name. So I basically settle and discharge debt, and I can basically free people of cases. If you're the defendant, we use a special appearance to.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
UCC is useless. Cal Washington stuff is useless. You know why it's useless? There's 51 UCC at the ledge. Every province, every republic has UCC 2,000 times. So when you waste people's time filing papers of notice of UCC, of equity, you're wasting people's time. You know why?
So we don't file anything in equity, and we don't work with the Uniform Commercial Code either.
For 50
years. So we're working with banking. We're working with banking and accounting terms, legal banking.
Cannot.
We're not using the UCC.
You can't. You know why? Here. I don't think you really understand the problem of the system. The system is not the bottom level to the top level. You are the top. So it's like on my website. Many years ago, we tried to explain to people simple terms as facts. You are the government. There is no government. They're delusional. You continue down the path fighting on their road they built, where you build your own road. You're never going to win until you find your true sovereignty.
Yeah, I'm already having success, my friend. I actually just posted in the chat. You could see this is from the New Jersey website of the Superior Court of New Jersey, and you can see the jurisprudences. Barely, no one knows what I'm doing. It's so private that so few people, it's very small amount of people know what I'm doing. And you can see on the first box, the jurisprudence that I'm working in, it's called equity, and it's all the way on the left. And there, it stands alone in the Constitution in Article 3, Section 2, Clause 1. It says that there is law and there is equity. So the judges, and I just spoke to a lawyer, the judges are trained in law and in equity. So what I study is a jurisprudence that's very old, that's called equity. And everything I'm doing is in the dictionary, my friend. So I understand that you are not familiar with it, and that you have had negative experiences with the UCC, and you have an opinion that using their processes doesn't work. But I will tell you that this jurisprudence is above law merchant, and law merchant is agreed to by every single country with a constitution via treaty. Equity is the jurisprudence that is in the dictionary as the unwritten law of justice and fair dealing when no other remedy is available. So it's actually based on morality, and that's why you energetically have to carry it. You have to carry it because it's based on morality, and it's here to protect God's law, which is the highest jurisdiction there is. So I could appreciate being jaded because I did I'm
asking you, there is no constitution. There's never been a constitution written, ever been a constitution. There's been no Indian Act. There's been no BNA Act.
So if we don't have a constitution, we don't have anything. So I'm going to respectfully disagree with you on that. I understand that as a national, as a 14th Amendment citizen, you only have civil rights, right? So you only have civil rights. So yes, you don't have constitutional rights. All 14th Amendment citizens do not have constitutional rights. But as a national, I do have constitutional rights.
National. You know why? Because George Washington was a Freemason. He was the 9th parasite brought in by the globalist parasites. Who was the first congressman of the corporation of the 13 republics, or the 13 colonies? So John Hanson was the first colonization. He made a deal with the the originals living there. There was no agreement, no ratification. So George Washington was a Freemason, which I believe was George Washington, is King George.
Yeah, we won't get off.
Another tangent I could explain to you, that moved over to colonize the corporation of, we'll call it North America or Turtle Island. No contract is vital. It's like if I sign a contract with you, the contract is between me and you. A ratification of a contract with 3 parasites. So you guys can all continue your life fighting in their system of an alligator pit where you can build a contract at your local level. The contract that I've written for you all is sovereignty at the local level. There is no province. There is no Arizona. There's no New Mexico. These are fictional lines. I call them prisons. Prisons. They prisoned you to believe in their system of fiction, abduction, of reduction of life. It's like the natives. I'm Iroquois. I'm Mohawk. No, you're not. Just a goddamn man. You're just a man.
Okay, Dallas, thank you so much for sharing that. Laura had just asked me to answer a question, which is what I'm doing to live in the private and to be free. So I just wanted to answer that question, but thank you so much for sharing that. Laura, would you like me to share anything else, or would you, where would you like to go?
Well, I think this is brilliant from the perspective that when we're having these kind of heated approaches to situations from different perspectives, we all have our own stories, and it's very difficult to move through those stories without getting lost in the labyrinth, it seems, between the idea of what something is and what the thing actually is. So, Dallas, you had actually mentioned something being vital. Well, you're bringing in vitalism and materialism, which is actually connects back to the church. And it's all actually connected to the founding father of Western philosophy, who was Socrates, who then had Plato and Xenophon as two of his students that came from that concept of asking questions to actually stand as king, ask king the questions, which is then bringing in the entitlements. And that was where then Thomas Aquinas actually created 4 kinds of law: human law, which is man's law, being one, divine law, universal law, and I forget what the other one, but none of those were actually the common law that is available to all of us to draw from as conscious co-creators of our reality. So as Laura had mentioned, and what Dallas and Claudio, what we're all alluding to is the power of the words that we're using to actually know the identities. We're inviting entities in with the IDs that we identify with, which actually entify as a definition is to bring physical form to something. And an ideology, I just want to use my rough notes because I haven't had time to be able to translate this in a more aesthetically pleasing way. But ideology represents the imaginary relationships of individuals to their real conditions of existence, thus giving ideology a sense of material existence. That's what it means to entify something, which then we identify with the thing that seems material in existence, which is form, compared to the substance that is fluid and expandable compared to contracted, which is where we are in the public compared to the private. The difference is the capstone I've come to see is where we get capped in so we don't actually have access to the first person pronoun any longer. Because now we're capped in top and bottom with the public, and we've forgotten all about our freedom to exercise our creative abilities and gifts from within the lowercase private side of life that is creative in nature, just as are we, which is who created the ideological state apparatuses upon which all of the hegemony, which is the dominant ideology, is based, and then reinforced with repressive state apparatuses, which are the governments, cops, courts, councils that reinforce the higher liege lords' rules under a manorial system that is also corporatocratic now in nature because it's feudal. It's futile to resist. If we remember back in the Star Trek days, well, resistance is not just futile, it's also feudal, which is to fight, which the warring districts of the merchant is that my BS is better than your BS, so you got to leave your BS in order to buy my BS so that I profit at your expense. That's the exchange of a transactional concept that accrues power to the entities. Laura Marcos and I actually met because, well, we met through an a random connection at a conference we both went to, but we both originally were actually soul realignment practitioners, which is accessing the Akashic records to find out information about your soul. And we didn't know each other from that program, but we found out through the next thing that we got involved with. And I bring this up only because that training actually was very fundamental to understand what's going on now, by the fact that in the training's definition, an entity is a thought form that accrues energy when we give the entity our energy. What is a corporation but a corporate entity? Which means the corporate entity only moves forward because we give it our power, as we know. But it's only because we move out of the first person office of man or woman in order to then invite an agent, which is the second person, in to be able to then make us the third person, which is the minor or ward, also known as a lunatic, that could be subject to the Mental Health Act, that quickly becomes the Health Act if we don't act and actually learn the power of notices, using our pen, putting someone in their first and second and third name when we start to understand Roman nomenclature. And the fact that actually the slave system of the Roman days is still alive and well. It's just we don't talk about people in terms of plebs for commoners, or the equestrians as the middle cavaliers, which are the knights in the chess game, or the other that I can't think of in this moment, but we don't talk about them in those kind of terms. But this is the piece about the terms generally. If we don't set the terms, then we step into someone else's domain, where domination is the name of the game, compared to dominion, which was our claim to fame without the nominations or the titles. So dominion is on the top in the true private, where the all is what created all of us, that was uncapitalized and unspecified as to why each of us can be so unique and individual and be self-independent of anything outside of the shell of the consciousness that would cap us in our abilities to exercise our full giftedness based on our belief in what we can do based on the beliefs we have about ourselves and all of the roles that we take on and the offices that we step into that limit us, compared to what we can create when we see the all and us at the very top in the private, which then take man and woman even out of the equation, because if all of us are us, then man, woman, trans, whatever those labels are, we can stop letting those boxes of words divide us, because we're talking about the same thing using different syntax of meanings applied to those words. And we just get back to the energy of all created us, who created these devices to make life easier for us. Except for in doing so, we invited the Holy See of the hidden hand, which has been the Vatican combined with Catholicism, that is under and overshadowing the whole public. Because that's how the heir of heirs, which we are, came into play under the heir of law, land, air, and water, those being the capitalized and specified versions of the original, which is where we're heirs to the lands, airs, and water of this place that we live in, compared to when the air is capitalized and then you have an H-E-I-R or an H-I-E-R for an heir. So when we see the capitalization, that's when then the entitlements come in, because heirs are entitled to things, but the title is in the entitlement, and the ment is of the mind. So when we actually find that we want to stand as king, ask king the questions because that's our power position, but only because we thought the king had power, because we gave the emperor wearing no clothes our agreement until we saw the greed in agreed. Glenn, it's great to have you here as well. Thank you for tuning in as we go through the hierarchy of creation from a different perspective, because instead of talking about it in terms of all created us and specifying what that means to make then the government and the cops, courts, councils, and then the corporations. Instead, we're just saying, okay, well, religion, education, politics, sports, family, communication, culture, media, social media, all of those are ideological state apparatuses that become the apparatuses that we actually grow up in. And then they're reinforced by the repressive state apparatuses that reinforce what the bigger house that they're under says that they have to do, because this is all under manorialism, which is the manor system, and why the hero, villain, and the bystander or the rescuer are what we've been dealing with through all of the insanity, but we haven't been looking at it in the terms that we were originally focused on. And tonight, it's great to have you here, Ken, as well. Thanks for joining in. We were originally going to be talking about the theater of oppression, but my lack of attachment to certain syntax mean that my comparison of Jews from those that relate to Judaism or celebrate and worship that practice compared to court Jews, which were the ones that are actually in the banking industry, that have banking gods and all of the rest of what is related to having a very different religion, both being under the same house because they're using the same words, and then the innocents are getting mixed up with the wolves in sheep's clothing. And then people are saying that all Jews are bad or some of the Jews are evil. And it's just like, dear Lord, there's bad of everything and there's good too. We all have equal capacity to do horrendously evil things as well as amazingly wonderful things if we choose to, which is based on why that story of which wolf will we feed is the way that we need to see the theater of oppression as the way that the legal fiction has been playing out, but those spectators that are the spectators from the documentation that was shared by the one that I had hoped would come on to have the conversation, but our BS got in the way, and so there was a lack of desire to play on common ground because it didn't feel safe to one or both parties, unfortunately. And so as the one who invited another to a place they didn't feel safe to come, I have to figure out how to make it a safer space. Because ultimately, the accusation of my comments being anti-Semitic, was shocking to me, because I don't even know what that means. Truly, I don't understand what it means to be accused of that. I know that it's not good socially and politically, definitely not. And those things will come back up to haunt anyone that doesn't fall into line eventually, like what Wanda you were talking about with people that you in Dallas know who have been taken out for speaking truth. And eventually it's like the Fabian Society's strategy of depleting those with resources early on, anyone with hope and courage and conviction, with strength that can inspire the people, take them out early, give them fines for standing up, get them in prison so they can't be in with the populace, get their mental health tested to see how sane they are, talking about the WHO that's doing this to us and to me. Well, who's the WHO? And all of the insanity is the joke that's being played on us, because the Joker is where they can slide menacing text into something larger, so you glaze over it and then the people laugh because it's like, wait a minute, that was kind of confusing, but I really want to get this done because I need to get on to the next thing, as we are so often doing when moving through these boring documents. So then we just miss the detail that the Joker tells in the text. And then what's next? Well, what was fated for us with what was wrote, because that's how predictive programming works. So my realization today is ultimately that all of this, the reason we're in the situation that we are is because we're looking at these apparatuses as if they're fixed. But the prefix that's ascribed to what is fixed within the word, which is the foundation of the spell, is ultimately what will be prescribed if we don't describe what we want to rescribe to. So the scribing needs to be up to us, not you and me specifically, but us, each of us individually. So yes, there will be the you and the me doing these things, but if we can learn how to get back to just saying, when I'm pointing at you, there's three fingers pointing back at me, because what I say to do needs to be what I do as well. And instead of telling you what to do, I just need to do it. So then you can see by my actions that it's what I'm doing. Like what Laura says, she's convicted. She knows what she's doing. It's working for her. And she's going to go until she either hits the absolute can't go any further point, or she breaks through and then is able to share the success back with those that didn't guess she could get as far as she did. And the same is true with what I'm working on privately that I don't talk about publicly. So I'm sorry, it'll have to be a live event, which January 26th to the 28th. There will be an event in Blackstock, Ontario, which I know is further for some than others. But that's going to be an opportunity to come together and go through the content that I have been working on in a course to break down this story in a more digestible way, because what I even had written before that goes into how the Vatican is actually the holder of title, which is the vassal for the equity, that is where our trust is getting its funding from, and then moving the agents as the responsible authority into their proper position as a public delegate to fulfill orders that are meant to make life easier for the first person. When we step back into that office, we stop being dropped into the third person office of the legal person, which is the debtor, which is the exchequer or the executor, that ultimately is the one not having the shots called, but having the sentences wrote for them, life or death ones, that have real life implications for the one implied to be the legal debtor of the Vatican's debt, because ultimately the trust is being tapped anyway. So even when we talk about building a parallel society, for instance, our trusts already have all the equity that we need, and karmically we've paid a very high cost to have the consciousness that we do at this particular time, to be able to use our hand and not be a pawn in another man's war, which is what happens when we have weapons in our arms and then we a pawn in another man's war weapon. So these weapons make us the pawns that we don't need to be, if we can see the way the ideologies have been used against us. And the ruling class that calls the shots until we figure out how to play nicely together. Like responsible household management, we need to know how to actually look after our own houses again, because we've been so busy figuring out how to profit by looking after the houses of corporations. We've forgotten what it takes to actually be in community, looking after ourselves and those in our immediate proximity who have the ripple effect of impacting those in theirs. But the world is getting smaller because isolation is a great way to keep people feeling powerless. And if you don't play together, then you lose those social skills and you get even more uncomfortable, and then you don't want to do it even more so. So that's basically what's happening against us right now. And Henry, I hear your microphone and I wonder if you had something you wanted to share. Okay. If you do, please don't hesitate to raise a hand or give a sign so that we can make sure that we all have an opportunity to share. And I will take a picture of this, so it's better, and I'm working on putting it into the course. But basically, if you look at the light is really, if you look at this part of it, this is the biggest line this is what I believe to be the Holy See, which is the Vatican and the incorporation. And the division of church and state when Rome allegedly fell was just the change in contract terms from the Roman Republic, which is based off the res publica of a public thing or public affair, into then being an empire, which is the corporation. So then you have nation states, and those nation states then create the concept of a Canadian, for instance, as well as a municipality. That, for instance, I am a Canadian would be a false statement because I am residing in lands known as Canada within Norfolk County specifically as my municipality. But those are just two boxes with another box of the provincial one in between that. So when we actually see the ideological state apparatuses as the way that all of it's been playing together, like the conspiracy theorists that ultimately lead back to one giant conspiracy, like those are the ideological state apparatuses based on Roman times with Roman nomenclature. And even the mark of the beast is actually the title, mark, and name. If you actually look at the letters themselves, from what I understand, in Hebrew, that was what they actually translated to as signs themselves, which is why we need to be so clear about the sign languages that we're actually using when we don't know about it. Like the dogged language that is used in the public that appears English but follows different grammatical rules. So any word that has two or more capitalized letters in the same word is dogged, which means it's been bastardized, which means it's a sign language that appears English but is actually sign language. So each letter is now a sign instead of a letter. And because of that change, now each letter actually stands alone because they're now signs that stand alone. So it appears to be together, but if there's not an estoppel, which is a period to stop the text, it's based on how many spaces are between the estoppel and the start of the next sentence. Did you know these things? Because the lawyers do. The legal professionals who have to article in order to be able to put their periods in the right places, including making sure they dot their I's and cross their T's, so they don't get capped in and trapped within the public, when the private is the more powerful place to be able to stay, because we can absolutely still cross into these areas while maintaining our claim of rights that we actually put people on notice ahead of time that we're claiming. So then when they trespass on them, we've already let them know, and we use their legislation to reinforce our claims. But we don't do it as if our rights came from their legislation. Instead, we do it compared to, or you put C.F., which means to confer to that which is in the domain to which it applies to you who work there. I'm letting you know of my claims as a woman in my private capacity with all common law rights reserved at all times, knowing the common law is unwritten, uncapitalized, unspecified, and able to be drawn from outside of the public, which is where all of the title statuses and personages actually apply. So when we get clear on that, the capstone doesn't just wind up on our gravestone or in the life sentences that the corporations create in our name and then get us to pay for the privileges and benefits from there, when they're actually getting those from our equity or the trust that is in our names under the Holy See of the Vatican, that's the hidden hand operating these ideological state apparatuses that have reinforcement, such as the Inquisition before it was changed to be police or peace enforcers or peacemakers. What do you call them? Peace officers. Not, but all the names, all of those are just reflections of legislation that make us think that what is being written applies to us, but it only applies to the likeness and image of us, which is the counterfeit paper version. So the counterfeit paper version requires us to believe ourselves to be the thing that is supposed to be used as an instrument. And if we don't use it as an instrument, then we're going to get used. And it'll be okay under the quasi-usufructory system. Quasi-usufruct being around the relationships to how things are used of another's. Usus, fructus, and abusus being the ways that we can use other people's property and it still be legal so long as it's consented to. So when we're in the public, all of that applies. When we remain in the private, we can step into public spaces without losing rights, because it's men and women in these spaces that then interfere with our right to exercise our freedom to do what we claimed we have the right to do. And if they say that we do not have the right to do that in their establishment, then they're the eyes that I see, that I put on my page to put on notice of a trespass on my claimed rights that I have beliefs about, and contests have to be made if the contest is not going to be one when I say you have to respond within a certain period of time or I'll believe that my claims have been accepted. So if they don't do that, then they're not acting in good faith if they then try to continue denying me the right to do the thing that I can challenge and say, no, I do claim I have that right. So I know that that sounds like a lot of BS belief systems on my part, but I do truly believe this to be the way that we actually make all things real again. But first, it requires us actually see the illusory nature of what we've been dealing with, and then figuring out how to not kill each other in the process when things get taken personally and emotions get stirred because we didn't know how to deal with some kind of emotion in the past. So we didn't solve it then. It got stuck. It got lodged in the energetic system of us. Now, in the moment where something related triggers that emotion to show back up, we're equally uncomfortable with it now, with the compounded experience of whatever now has brought up and any other situations we didn't know how to deal with and shove down before. Now we have this huge emotional reaction because suddenly everything is showing up now to be resolved, because that's the only time we have to move any of it. Time is the illusion that takes us onto the ledger books of the victor that wrote the storybooks. Helen?
Can I mention something? I was a previous grade 4 teacher, and I know that all through my I only taught only 11 years, and then I only had one good principal in my 11 years, but EQ is never taught. Emotional quotient is never taught in our health or in our education. It's for the reason to protect the system. Now, I just heard today that all the, this could be so, or it could be hearsay, I don't know, but as of September the 1st, 2023, the White Hats, I don't know if you believe in them, or the Alliance, have paid all the debts of the nations from, I guess, money that was stolen from us or gold that was stolen, and they've taken it from the Vatican and paid off all the nation's debts in the world, Vatican and other places. Have you heard about this?
I think Helen has a lot more to say about it than what I do at this time. So I will say something else.
The underground dumbs, Guantanamo Bay is all a psyop, nonsense bullshit, Trump nonsense bullshit to distract people from finding the truth. The White Hats don't exist, never have, never will. White Hats are us, the individual person. Don't listen to a Q, Trump, all that XRT bullshit. These are all programs to make you think, like the Bible, right? Jesus Christ and God's going to come and save you. Mm-hmm. But by now, you also know that Jesus Christ was written by the Jesuits to create a fictional character. The Vatican is very well control of the manipulation of the Catholic Church, which they broke up the Catholic Church into morons and morons and morons and morons. And nonsense shit. So when I tell you the White Hats are coming to save you, these are the most evilest, lying, parasites. Next, XRT, X22. I'll give you a list tomorrow of all the controlled op. There's over 500 controlled opposition groups in the Corporation of Canada. Laurel Tyler Thompson, Jesuit, Susan Stanford, Tanya Gaw, Mark Friesen, the PPC party. There's never been an election in the Corporation of Canada, ever. See, and direct democracy are both lies. I mean, even Kellyanne Farkas, the biggest fraud. They're all fraudsters. These people work hard to distract you from the truth.
I know. And Laura is for sure on. I have so much to learn there between the public and the private and the wording and the periods and the capitals and all this. But I appreciate that. That's great that I shouldn't waste my time on that.
Yeah, this is the biggest, the greatest point is it's your life. And you know, it's like I sat with many men over my years of life. A contract, it's a contract. It only exists between the two significant parties. You know, I wrote a contract for you guys all. Read it. It's part 1 of 7. It restores land, layer, and water. There's no Indians. There's no cowboys. There's no Mexicans. There's no white people. There's no Mexicans. You're all just beautiful people.
They're like Laura said, we are all us or whatever she said. I think she said that.
It's so simple to fix the problem, but we're not. See, eventually, time will bring us all together. I watch people make thousands of mistakes, but they're beautiful mistakes. But eventually, they're going to come together. Why are we here? Because we love each other. That's so powerful. Don't let fiction stop you what you really are. They call it nonfiction. It's not nonfiction. It's real. The Creator created this land for all of us to share it, to prosper, to nurture. If you continue down the battle of living in their fiction, you'll fight for the rest of your life. You establish what you want as your local community. It's like what Sheila said, bottom up. No, it's not the bottom up. It's the top down. They're the bottom feeders. They're the scum. They're the I call them welfare bums. We are the people. Together, we're amazing. We create what we want to create. And if we can sit here for hours and hours disguising ourselves. But we are flesh and blood.
Thanks.
We don't get in the morning and go, I'm going to go destroy a country, bomb another country. No, we get in the morning going, I want to see my children run through the park and my grandchildren have fun, right? So we get up, not these parasites, these sociopaths. Turn around.
Yeah, the controlled opposition is one of the most powerful piece of their arsenal, because we've been programmed to respect authority and we've been groomed to have a savior from the day we entered Sunday school. You know, somebody's coming to save us, so we can sit back and relax and not put our put anything into remedying the situation we're in. We're just waiting for the white hats or Trump or Jesus to come back and save us, and we rest on our laurels and don't sort of do our own problem solving here.
Well, I also heard that somebody mentioned talking about controlled opposition. If you write a comment and say your physics or whatever, the robots can turn around and they can do, it used to be up to 1,000 comments against yours or for yours, depending on what your comment is. And now it's from New York. It's 10,000 comments they can do.
Oh yeah, the AI is good. I developed the XP operating system, which you guys are running right now. It's called a GUI interface. I worked for Microsoft developing TCP back during 1980s, right? I don't know where this guy named Who's that parasite?
Bill Gates.
Good. More information.
Microsoft.
Elon Musk.
No, Elon Musk is not a liar too. Yeah. But no, the other one there, Bill Gates. Yeah. So I mean, Steve Jobs didn't develop this shit. We developed it all years ago, right? We were speaking 3.0, 3.1. They took the best of us and put us into classrooms. And even when I worked for, I was developing the A1 series for Air Force One back in 2003, right? I was developing that for, the little grandma sitting at her home, right? That fell over, got injured, right? And then I was down in the States working, going to South Korea, North Korea. I'm going, well, why am I going to South Korea, North Korea? Got a war going on there. They're all the same team. Trump, same team. Elon Musk, same team. You look at Marnella Daniel Smith, right? Bilderberg Group member. They brought her in. Even this bullshit with this Preston Mann doing this thing, citizens analysis across the nation. Here's Citizens Alliance. Here's Preston Manning, who's the biggest Bilderberg Group member, who brought Harper in, Jason Kenney, all the same club of Rome. They keep clubbing you. Even was a Mason. George Carlin was just laughing at you. They're telling you they're going to kill you and kill your family and your children. But as long as you're entertained watching hockey and football and news, you're all lost. There is no contract. You create the contract you want.
The other day, 2 days ago, the same a gentleman, Claudio, is it Claudio? I'm not too. I don't know if it's Claudio.
Yes, he's in the room.
He gave some documents and showed them on the screen. One was how to people that want your money or say they have a contract with you, and the first 3 or 4 documents they can't prove because they can't show it, so therefore it's null and void. Does anyone have that? I know I used to have that, but I can't find it now. I have no idea where it is.
So I don't think that was my document.
Guess what? We will come in. I'll be there, or Claudia can be there, or Moss can be there, and a few other individuals. We'll go through the course. You're not going to present this information unless you feel it in your heart, unless you're willing to stand for it. Signing a document means nothing.
Understand? No, I understand the heart very, very well. So this is what I feel very comfortable with you. I was with somebody for quite a while, but didn't feel comfortable there.
It's also,
and so I came here.
10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
It was synchronicity.
10 o'clock in the morning. Like I said, you guys want to come in? We'll go through the documents. When you feel confident you can do the documents, we will support you 100%.
When you say 10 o'clock, is that 10 o'clock your time, Ontario time, or 10 o'clock my time, which is Alberta time?
Ours, so not actually, just being sarcastic.
We're in Alberta, so Alberta. Are we 10 o'clock tomorrow Alberta time?
Yeah. But if you want to come in,
so
just send me.
8
I mean, this week here is going to be very entertaining because
it's going to be.
Moz is going to be in, and we're going to go through it. And when we feel that you graduated that course, what do I mean by graduate is this? Do you really comprehend what you're saying and what you're doing? Do you feel that this is what you want? We don't want you to put. We want you to make sure you understand what you're saying confidently.
I understand that because I spent 6 years, I spent 6 years studying myself. Then I spent 3 or 4 years with somebody else. And it was right this is how it's done. Well, nothing resonated within me because it didn't seem to have the foundation I wanted. It was writing from somebody else's perspective rather than from my own soul.
What documents are you talking about?
Well, yesterday, there was a gentleman that showed something about Queen Victoria and something suggested, and it was in color on the screen, suggested that should be read. And then there was a document about a contract with, there was about 7 or 8 points, I gather, in the first 3 or 4, the bill collector or whoever you want to send this to could not give it to you because they don't have it, and therefore it would be null and void, and they'd have to, put their head between their legs and walk away.
Three documents. The three documents.
Sorry to say, Dallas. Sorry, I know he said it was his document.
Yeah, no, it wasn't my document. I took it. Wanda shared something on a video. I took that, threw it into a text, and that's the one that is on the emails right now, right? So I was just showing the power of AI on how it can just go and throw darts at things to cause more thought starters for us, not to create one that somebody can go and use. But yeah, it's a powerful discussion on when a collection agency. I mean, Wanda or Dallas, please, you can jump in.
Dallas, do you want to jump in?
So what I did was this. So when I worked with Bill Abram back in the 1980s, and Dennis Shaw, Canadian Forces, right? We already knew that Canada's not a country; it's not a corporation. So I spent years trying to figure out dialect. Dialect. It's your dialect. It's your language. So Amaz brought in very good documents, and then Ed, I love Ed to death. For 2 years, me and Ed would yell and scream at each other. We're on the same page, but Ed proved it. It worked successfully, and with UNDRIP was a great declaration for all of us. Universal Declaration for Indigenous people, and most of the idiots think that Indigenous means the slaves. No, Indigenous means the elite, right? They don't understand how they speak. They turn things upside down, right? But use that to their advantage. There is nothing. On my page, Dennis Shaw said before they murdered him, right? Teach the people one thing. There's no law, there's no justice. They create the law, they create the justice. It's so simple. We cannot manufacture fighting in the realm of bullshit. And I said it for 30, 40 years. It's an alligator pit. Dean Clever went to jail for 5 years. He went with sovereign man. They went to common law, which common law is British monarchy law, right? And a lot of people keep the way I look at life is this. I'm a hunter, I'm a fisherman, right? I don't follow the path of others. I follow the path that's going to get me a point where I can kill them, right? I don't stay on the trail. The trails, that's their path. They're all sitting ducks. I wrote the best constitution for all of you. It's the contract. Sovereignty contract. There is no law. There's no justice under this system. There's never been law. And I see so many great people fighting for what we want. What do we want? We want a future. You are the future. You are the top. Could you imagine the 50 of the, they call them gurus, but I call them grifters and scammers and liars and thieves, right? They're not teaching you what you really are. They don't give you your independence. They don't give you freedom. And I sit here as an old man now, watching and observing. I see a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and guess what? They're amazing. You know why? They have never been hampered by this system.
If you go to daycare and they're promoting that all the time, you definitely today I would say, well, I guess there's some other light things that I really cannot stand when people say, well, there's rainbow children and there's indigo children. There's always been, I would say, even though I'm born in the late 40s, I was, at 5 years old, I was in nature and God came down, or the energy came down and told me, one day you will understand everything. And I said, oh no, don't give me that. You would class me. And then I went to the Marxist one-room schoolhouse. I couldn't stand it, never did well in school at all, then became a teacher.
So
However, that was because of a collectivist approach. I had a unique way of bringing out children's, and I could never do it.
Well, you're born the
potential.
Yeah, you're born in the 40s. My dad was born the same time during the fake false flag war of World War II, right? 41, December 7th, right? But yeah, it's your life, and we're all here for the same reasons. When I saw Sheila Spitfire, I call her Spitfire. Tucker Neil Smart, and I loved her energy. And all of you have great energy. Could you imagine? This thing was tomorrow morning we all get together. And we all say one thing: there is no government. We are the government. We choose our destiny. Power. Right. It's not. We are the top. It's like this. We take the land over. Right now, we win. You know why? We create a contract. Yes, there's losers to the left of us and losers to the right. But we as individuals that actually care are the most beautiful thing on this planet. There's a reason we're all sitting here. Because everybody's fighting and arguing and going left and right and this. They're yelling, freedom, 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 freedom. End the lockdown, end the lockdown. Bend me over. Bend me over. These are all controlled opposition. Those are ones who actually sit and discuss the problems like we're doing. The problem is there's no accountability. Why? That's why these groups are starting to come here. Sorry. This is why this mindset of beautiful men and women are organizing to stop, pause. We're all gonna do different things, but our direction is the same direction. And when others out there see that we're talking about solutions and ideas for all of us together, we win. Claudio came in, beautiful man. Me and Ma spent, months together. Want to watch him for 2 years ago. Myself personally, I watched all of you in my own time. I never missed a beat. I just had to wait till you guys actually figured out what you really wanted. We're here now. None of us have the right solution, but together we have a solution. So we throw crumbs, we throw boulders, whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to tell you right now, the solution is you. And it's so simple. Yesterday I spent hours with Neil. And Neil said, well, they didn't go for the bait. I said, well, of course they're not going to go for the bait. Now we'll turn around. They're going to sue us, which is awesome. You know what? Because they'll lose in court. And they cannot lose. Remember one thing. The Magna Carta was created by the globalists for taxation. The Magna Carta and the Kennedy families, the kings, right? They're the same kings. They don't like individual thought or communication, right? The Constitution I wrote for you guys all is for you.
Okay. Can I just say, though, that you is actually the second person pronoun of an agent. And so the solution has to actually be us, not a you, because that's where the us and them come into the frame, where us is first, second is you, and third is them. So like this whole issue is because everyone's talking about you're the solution, but you're the man, you're the whatever construct that is actually creating a middleman to go in between us. And furthermore, I question what a sovereignty contract could be. I haven't seen it, but a contract is a contracted limited state compared to an expanded state, which is what sovereign is supposed to be. Though a sovereign would need an army, and I break the word down to be souverain, which reign in French is queen, Sous is under, ver is right. So souverain, under right queen, is the hidden hand of the prism that we have been seeing to only be the pawn, king, and knight, that are the positions we think we have access to, when the bishop, queen, and rook are playing the other side of the prism, which is essentially like Caesar's face on the back of a coin that's fiat currency, because it's these hidden hands that are making the orations that give the value of the nation's coins to it.
Well, when I said you, I mean all of you. So turn around. There's no other source. Okay. There's no other source in power but men and women. Fictions are fictions. Mm-hmm. You source of all power. It's so simple. There's no God. There's no Jesus Christ. All the Babylon Bibles, the fiction Bibles, Jesus Christ, God, all this nonsense was created by them to enslave man. Mm-hmm. Proletarium. They're starting to figure that out. And right now, the greatest opportunity now is to focus on what we have to be focused on. Why are we enslaved? How do we stop it? They create federal governments, provincial governments. And, you know, when I invited on the Saturday meeting with the PPC party, we all know Max Huber is a parasite. His dad was a mass murderer, parasite, like a son.
I really don't like all of the name calling, to be honest. It really bothers me. Like, it just means I know we've all made choices. It's just I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It's just like, when we're trying to be part of the solution, to call people parasites is to not see the pair of sights that are on us. Like, I think I'm not trying to interrupt your flow. It's just, I feel like to not like to call anyone names is to actually, it just is a poor reflection on us when we do, because then it's creating that separation, where if we're all the fractals of one another, then we start to see that we've got to face our own denials, and if we won't do it within our own selves, those denials have to make it back to us through the external circumstances and conditions outside of us, which mean those assholes and parasites and all of the other shit that's outside are still parts of us that we haven't integrated, because we're still judging it so hard we have to keep it out of us. So that's what I'm trying to say about this whole us versus them. And ironically, the theater of oppression, it would have been absolutely brilliant to have been able to actually share, but it's the us versus them attitude, and how unhelpful it is when unpacking oppression. So I just met someone that I thought would be very valuable to share, but then my BS offended them, so they didn't want to be part of it. And I say it that way because I'm trying to be respectful to someone that I would really like to still be able to build a relationship which is based on trust. But then trust takes a moment to break, but a lifetime to establish. And then that moment still comes up, and just suddenly it's taken away from all of us. So I'm just trying to say that I don't know enough about the theater of oppressed performances or the theories at all. It was brand new to me, which is why when I met someone that knew more, I said, hey, can you come on? And then we figure out what you know in your area of expertise, which you've got your areas of expertise. Wanda as well has so eloquently shared so much today. And it's just like the history, like you guys have definitely went down rabbit holes that other people have not had an opportunity to. And like, Helen, your question about the white hats and the black hats, it's just like, think about it from an attire perspective. If you can't be down in bed with your, man or woman and like having the time of your life with your hat on, then it's not yours and it's going to get in the way. Like, just from just kind of go into the basics we can all relate to and appreciate, like hats get in the way. So if we're wearing these hats, we're not just being real. We've got to have some kind of protection or mask or disguise to prevent us from having the whole truth be exposed. And like Trump is literally a trump card, like not saying he specifically, but when you actually look at it from a chess reference, when you look at it from a tarot reference, when you look at it from a card game reference, all of these, the tarot is the expanded version of card games. Chess is the expanded version of checkers. Like these are board games that are played on a board because we're bored, so we want to be entertained, so then we can entertain other people or entrain people to then fall into line and just do what's required in order to stay fitting in with whatever narrative we believe might be the best option to save our souls, which this whole savior complex is very much tying into the victim, bully, and rescuer dynamic that we're always bouncing around in. And every single character is going to be reflective of a dysfunctional side unless we flip it and then make it the empowered dynamic instead of the disempowered dynamic, which is the flip that we have to make. It's just when we get into the emotions that are heavier, that make us want to fight, then we're getting into those warring territories of the Admiralty Maritime Merchant territory that is going to keep us selling BS because ours needs to be the best choice somebody else buys to reinforce our choice to believe it in the first place if it wasn't ours. If it didn't originate with us, like a template that people might use within the freedom movement, lots of notice of liability templates and forms have been offered out. And I warn everyone about the OPCA litigant status application threat because it is very vexatious, which is causing annoyance, frustration, or irritation indeed for someone to be trying to fill a public position and then be getting all of this paperwork from people who went onto this site in order to grab that template to have themselves served up on a plate or platter, depending on whether they're going to try to actually stand on a trap door and expect not to get hung out to dry. It's insanity. But I learned that because back in 2020, end of 2020, I interviewed Jackie Robinson, who goes by Jackie Phoenix, who took over David Robinson's group with Article 61 of the 1215 Magna Carta after he had died, and he had created a 5-step lawful notice process to the cops, courts, and councils. So I learned at that time the difference between a letter and a notice, which I wasn't aware there was a distinction until then, and she kind of browbeat it in, and it was like, oh, that makes more sense. But it wasn't useful still when I got the summons months later, and I was hosting calls to try to get people answers how to use this notice process in order to call for the redress that would actually take back our public buildings and the positions be doing what we're trying to do now, which apparently is called redress. But my point for sharing all of this is I was trying, and so I said, okay, well, let's make it easier for other people to get the answers that make us all feel more comfortable to move forward. So let's go over these notices, which mixed jurisdictions, but I didn't know anything about that then either. And basically I sent off one, and then when I called to the police to find out who the top official actor there is, they couldn't answer because I am technically, if we're actually looking for highest peg, like I'm not a special in that. If you called, you would be, if you were in the first person pronoun position that keeps you in the private, that has the ability to command responsible authorities in the public, if you take up your pen in order to use your hand to write it. But if you're using your pen to sign off on templates that somebody else created and isn't even alive now to stand behind, such as David, you're standing on paper that is going to burn up when you are declared a witch, because which are you after is a mix of grammar spells that traps those that don't know how to say, what do you mean? Like, I just did the best thing that I tried to restore honor and justice to this messed up situation that we're all in. What are you talking about? And conscience must prevail. If the men and women in the courts are to actually be held liable, accountable, and responsible in their private capacity. My point for this long-winded story is to say that I didn't think about that and the templates issue when I was trying to use those until I got a case or I got a charge for speaking at a rally in 2021, and then I dealt with it via lawful notice. But I learned from a man that was helping people privately for 15, 20 years that nobody knows his name. And he likes it that way. And I say my lawman out of protection, because anyone can step into that position, which is an archetype. When I say my lawman, you have a general idea what I mean. That's an archetype, which is why Jordan Peterson's program is called The Arc, with all of the billionaires behind. We're being led through character arcs. It's just our own development. It wasn't what we were taught is actually what the hero's journey or the major arcana of the tarot are about. All the characters that we will become along the character arcs of the development of archetypes, which is what all of this has led us through. So by going down that route and then calling the police to find out that they couldn't give me the answer to my question without selling out one of their fellow men, which they wouldn't do. But secondly, they were not even adhering to the 1215 Magna Carta. It was the 1297, because under the doctrine of discovery, I believe it is, that was when they combined the 1215 Magna Carta and a couple other ones with the 1297. That is now what the policy enforcers, the repressive state apparatuses use. But I didn't know about any of this, and now I've learned more, and I'm just trying to say, if you use a template, such as everybody that went after the Practical Lawful Dissent International bad adding vice of putting some added pressure onto you if you actually get called to account for all of the harassment that has been sent to those acting in public positions that you were trying to say needed to do something when it was notice to principal is notice to agent, and notice to agent is notice to principal, which means you've brought in agents and principals, but you're trying to use a common law argument, which is multiple jurisdictions simultaneously, which is a problem. Because if you've got multiple jurisdictions, you've got multiple owners of the diction that are trying to be claimed, which is why you've got to have one jurisdiction. That's the ability to apply your rules to the diction of what a spoker wrote. If it's mixed, you've got competition. And so these are the things that I've tried. And I just want to say, like, if the one that wrote the template isn't alive, they can't be called on for testimony to actually speak to that which you think you're standing on if using someone else's template, which means that you have nothing to back up what you've tried to use, which will create an ovation and they'll throw it all away anyway, and then deem you an OPCA litigant if you don't know to protect yourself, such as what I did because of bad advice I got when I got my summons, when I was on all of the freedom calls to try to find solutions and then learn more as well, and was basically told by someone renowned in the movement that others call charlatans. And my personal opinion on the matter, after I was told to go in as a loser and accept whatever punishment might be softened by my willingness to say I was led astray and didn't know what I was playing with, and to take the reduced sentence of whatever the judge or justice of the peace might have been willing to give me, so that I would just get away with less harm than if I actually continued to push forward, which I chose to do, but then knew about the OPCA litigant status, which meant I then learned a whole lot more about it. So when it was tried in the courts against me, I said, I do not consent to the application of any title, status, personage, or name other than Laura. And I believe calling me otherwise or addressing me otherwise is fraud. So any man or woman acting in the courts that would have been on notice in their private capacity, because I did that ahead of time, time being the ledger that the courts are using when you're walking into their ledger system to balance the books. These are the things we need to be aware of, but we don't know what to be aware of until we do. And so that's
now the OPCA litigant, was that started with John Rook writing that report?
Yeah.
And the person involved in that?
Yeah, Dennis Mead, and it was a divorce settlement where he was trying to use a freeman of the land argument, and then he didn't contest some of the contestable points, and instead a precedent was made that could be used against any that fall under the president of the corporation known as the nation. We have a prime minister, not a president, but I just compare precedent with president just for vernacular purposes.
Yeah, it's a precedent.
Called precedent.
Yeah.
Precedent. Yeah, precedent, tomato, tomato. I don't know. Maybe there is a right, wrong, right way.
Yeah.
Wrong way. I don't know.
Depends who you listen to.
You gotta listen, and that was my failure. It's precedent. It's such a. I know it's a hard word to understand. We want to say president and this, but it's precedent. And so Magna Carta was precedent, right? So Magna Carta, which was the king's, right, in '66 they wrote common law, right, to ensure that they already had admiral law, maritime law, and civil law. Right?
It was 1666.
66. So they had to change it all over because they had to make it so the common slave thought he had a law, but he had no law. Jurisdiction. The Magna Carta was such a enslavement tool. In 1913, they brought Magna Carta in. In 1947, lying, Mackenzie King. I'll say it again, lying, Mackenzie King. You know, he was the next, selected parasite for the Corporation of Canada. He brought in Magna Carta. And he forged a letter because there was no king. He forged it all, right? It's on our page, right? It's all there. I went down to the museums and got the letters and photocopied every single letter. Just to, I had to do it because Dennis Shaw said to me, we need those letters. And I went to that museum and I went through everything. Some stuff I took though, but that's okay because I had to understand. You have to understand how these I know what you hate when I say parasite. These individuals think they use trickery, and trickery is good. This is why we're all here. We're all here for the same thing. And like I said, you all are going to be the future as you speak. And Laura, you're doing a great job. I'd like to hear Claudio what he has to say. What he's heard tonight too, right? We all want the same thing, don't we? Mm-hmm. We want jurisdiction of the land. It's so important. The reason we fail in life is we keep repeating history, not building our own history.
Mm-hmm. We build our history, not his.
Yeah. Well, you're doing awesome. I love you, dear. Hey, you're amazing. And you know something? I think that you're going to be a great educational teacher. And I think many people are going to watch what you do. Like I said, we're going to publicize your stuff because all of you are the foundation for what we're going to build. And like I said, everyone here has a different voice, right? And it's amazing how far we come in the last 5 years. Trust me. The last 5 years, I think the moron virus really got people thinking, and the forest fires lit by the RCMP and the globalists destroying everybody's homes and burning them out, directed do weapons. It's really woke the people up to really understand who they really are in their heart. They're just men and women. And I thank you. I do thank you. Like I said, I'm going to watch all your shows, and
there's way too many to go through, to be fair. It would be a waste to go through all of them, but not.
No, I'm not wasting my time on the last ones. I'm looking at progression, how you all matured. You know, me and Cal Washington for 20 years. 2 years ago, me and Cal got in a big argument about common law, and we argued. And I'm very direct with everybody, right? Fuck off. Don't waste my time. You know, and that's how I talk, right? That's how I am. I'm just a country boy. But when I see misdirection, I'm going to step in and say, no, that's wrong. Prove me wrong. We will build a bunch of amazing women and children to actually expand our message. And as the next few months, like I said, you know, I spent this morning with Neil yesterday in meetings, and he came out in there twisted this morning, and I laughed. And he says, will you back it on me? I said, of course I will. So my documentation. I mean, I'll sit here. In the morning, I get up, and I sit here, and I read all the documents, and you know, and right now I see a lot of great things coming together. So we just push forward, and I'm looking for that miracle child that stands up there, that blows our mind to a different direction. They're out there.
I think Laura is the miracle child.
Not me alone.
We're all
and I'm the old soul.
Yeah, that's right. 1940s. The 1940s. That's a long time ago.
No,
Helen?
I'm very young at heart. Nobody even would suspect that that's my age. So it's okay.
Helen, you know something? You phoned me tonight, and I love you here, dear. And but I'd like to hear what Claudia has to say, if you want to give him the floor for a couple of seconds, because he has some great stuff to say too. And you know, we're all working in the same direction, right?
Yeah.
Truth. Yeah.
All right, Claudia. Floor is yours.
All right. Well, wow, this is pretty exciting. It is. I mean, thank you, Laura, for all your wise words. So many points I can touch on. But I really like to touch more on that it has to be the one, like you said, and we have to be doing this all together. It's all of us. But as individuals, we all have a different path, but the path is to meet as one. So when we start to realize that, I'm programming you, by the way. See this image right here? I'm programming you.
Oh, good.
Because we are all individuals, and we're going to get exactly what we imagine, the I am in the IMA and imagine, right? So we didn't use our imaginations and what we want. Right now, what we imagine is what we get, because we are the creators. Psalm 82:6 says, I said, ye are all gods. And I can go on and rattle off 2 or 3 more of the references in the Bible, which stems from Egypt, right? All things arose lead to Egypt. Is that we are the creators of our own world. That's why one document will work for one person, because they've cleared all their karma. They'll go into a courtroom with a napkin and they'll get let go. Somebody come in with all the documents, and they're perfect, and they don't get let go because they're not released of their karma. So that's what's happening. So when we realize that it's us, the they is us, we are one, and we're trying to get back to one love. And the only way to get there is through the release of our own karma. You've mentioned karma a few times. So that's why I'm trying to build on exactly what you said. I'm trying to build anyway. So when somebody goes to court, it's in their chart. I do astrology. I've been gifted, not gifted as far as I'm a gift. No, I've been gifted. I've been able to chew into the waters and tap into how astrology really works. 95% of the astrologers out there can't do it correctly because they're not doing it for love. They're doing it for profit. So that's why when I do astrology, it's always for free, because I'm not going to lose my wings. I'm not going to, because I got to open up my doors and allow whoever to come into this space so they can guide me, because it's a Celestine prophecy. When we open up the doors so that everybody can start communicating, like Dallas, you guys did great, man. Wanda, what you guys are doing, you're opening up the door so that every one of us can come in and share our Celestine prophecy message to each other. The big message that I wanted to jump on top of is that exactly that That same thing won't work for everybody, but we're trying to get everybody to come to the realization that when they program themselves towards love, they start reducing the karma. But there's a lot of forgiveness that's got to go in, self-forgiveness, because we are karmic. The they is us given our karma for the Piscean age. The Piscean age is the least amount of love and the most amount of free will. So we've accumulated karma for the last 2,000 years. We are infinite, bar none. They took out karma and reincarnation. When people say, I don't remember my past lives, well, your experiences around you are your past lives. If you're getting thrown into court all the time, guess what you did to others in a previous life? You were throwing people into a court. When you realize that you are the creator of those actions, then you start doing a self-forgiveness process. The Ho'oponopono, but Ho'oponopono doesn't start with, it's me, it's mine, it's my karma. I'm not focusing on what I want to build. I got to start reimagining the world. So now we all start reimagining the world as one love. We start out forgiving each other for delivering karma to each other. Then our path gets cleared, because the images is Moses parting the waters. So to all the points that everybody's saying about, parasites, all those things, they're true, but they're ours. There are images. So and I want to agree with you too, Laura, when you say we got to lose those words, because those words are triggers. They're images. They're law of attraction. So when I hear those words, first thing I got to say is, Dallas, sorry for being the parasite in your previous life. I just asked him for forgiveness. I'm going to be clear because I was one. So as soon as we all realize that we were the one, because we are all one, then it starts to clear. And then now law of attraction starts wanting to come. Now everybody wants to start coming into this space, and it's our space. And then the whole world starts changing. It'll change around us first, because the 144,000 is the first 144,000 that induces the rest with love. It's written in the stars, Babylon falls. So we're there. It's already falling. But you got to imagine the end game. And the end game is love and living in community. So the more we imagine, the more we focus, the more everything's going to clear. And then all the documents that we create are going to work in court, because now they have this love around it. It squashes the karma. The people that are there who haven't realized this yet, that they are the creator of their own world, and that they're actually delivering karma to people in the courtroom, we have to forgive them, because the act of delivering our karma is going to bring them back karma. And the only way to release our karma is to release theirs, so that it stems again all to love. So everything that everybody is saying is there's no right or wrong answer, because what's working for who is working, because they've cleared all their karma, and that's going to work for them. So we don't want to poo-poo them, because it's working for them, because it's time for them to have sovereignty. To be true sovereign, just go look on the Egyptian walls, the weighing of the heart ceremony. The weighing of the heart ceremony actually happened in the sky on January 12th, 2020. That exact scene happened in the stars. We're on it right now. Where's your heart? Is it as light as a feather? If not, Amit, eat your heart. You come back, try again. But the next scene that most people don't show is that you on the throne. You're on the throne, so you are now sovereign, and you carry the crook and the flail, the self-harvest tools. You no longer have karma, because you're the one that knows you're going to give yourself karma. You have both Marys with their hands on your shoulders. That's Isis and Nephthys, Eris and Juno, Mary and Mary Magdalene. They've got the four watchers, the four stars, the four gates that you can't pass unless you have compassionate bravery, unless you have self-forgiveness, unless you have true understanding of abstinence, and then holding the world in a foundation like a mother. Those are the four watchers, the four royal stars. So these are all just metaphors of how you have to behave as a god or a goddess of your own world, because we are the gods and goddesses of our own world. That's why each and every one of us is different and has different gifts, but we're all trying to be the one again. So using the law that we've created to help us get out of this is where we need to go, but it's got to be done with love. It's got to be done with love. I can prove to you when somebody walks into the courtroom or gets thrown in jail or leaves the visible, I can show it to you in their chart, show you the magic. You are your own self-harvester. You take yourself out. Nobody takes you out. Nobody kills anybody. You do. When you leave the visible, it's you taking you out, nobody else. Because it's in a chart. I can show it over and over again. This is the crystal ball that Da Vinci holds, the Salvator Mundi, the savior of the world, and he's pointing up to the stars. It's you. You're the savior of your own world. Nobody else can be. So, Laura, I'm keeping building on everything you're already saying. You're absolutely right. But if a policeman pulls me over, right? I just had it happen. And I did the whole thing. He was going to bust into my car and everything. I'm going, no, I'm sorry. And then he finally said to me, I said, okay, no problem. I says, give me the tickets. I says, I don't consent to them. I don't accept them, but under duress, give me the tickets. But in the meantime, I educated him. Okay. So I knew that I was being pulled over spiritually, and I kept in that spiritual heart center, knowing that I'm going to plant some seeds with this brother, but knowing that he's also delivering me my karma. I've already released him and I've already forgiven him for pulling me over. But I did say to him, you got to stop, brother. He goes, what are you talking about? Well, you're delivering people's karma and you're going to have to take the karma back. You've been delivering a lot of karma to people and you're going to get karma back. I'm not getting any karma. So now I hit him right in the heart. But I said, I forgive you. But then when I went home, I asked myself for forgiveness for ever giving him karma in a previous life. Because I know the way it works. Because if you sit in a kiddie pool or sit in a pond or stand in a pond, even better yet, and the water is absolutely calm. When you throw a pebble in that pond, it creates a wave. The wave comes back and hits you back in the feet. So you are the pebble thrower, you are the pond, and you are the pebble. So we are the creators of our own world. And as soon as we realize that, the more strength we get. So this coming together under one love umbrella is beautiful. We need to do it. So everybody's saying all the right things, but we got to realize that we're all different, but yet the Celestine prophecy of us wanting to share the gifts, the messages to each other, this guidance, because we're all guiding each other to get there. It becomes beautiful. Things have just disappeared out of my life. Documents, banks, they just go away without doing anything. No documents. Because the contract called my spiritual contract of me and my karma can go away with just imagining it. That sounds really far-fetched. It really does. But it works. It absolutely works. So getting to that state of mind of picturing the end game with love is important while we do this. It really is. It really, really is. And that's all I have to share.
Thank you for sharing. It's beautiful. Why is it that I sort of sense it and I feel it? Why is it that people that label themselves as Christians seem to ignore Egypt? And I've always wondered that. And yet I have met some outstanding men and, people from Egypt, and they're very wise. But why do Christians ignore Egypt?
It's just indoctrination. It's just indoctrination, because here's the thing. The word Egypt is in the Bible over 600 times. Mm-hmm. The word Lord has a man connotation to it. If you go look up the Prakrit Sanskrit definition of Lord, it comes from Isha. Isha means ruling goddess, which means pure love. In the Hebrew Bible, Isha became woman. And when the Greeks translated her somewhere down the line, it became Lord, and Lord became man. No, ruling goddess, there's not a ruling goddess out there. It's love, it's pure love. And we are tethered to pure love. So what happens is they want to stay away from it because it's karmic. They got to go through what they got to go through till they realize and start loving everybody. Then they'll be able to see. So the word Lord is in the Bible over 7,222 times. That's woman. That's the divine feminine. That's love. So when you read the word, any verse in the Bible with the word Lord in it, it plays a whole different meaning now. When you put woman, there's only one way in and out of these waters, and that's through the womb of a mother. No other way. That comes from the waters of pure love.
Well, when I went to Rebuild or Habitat, whatever the store is, the secondhand store, I spoke to this Egyptian man, and he must have said to me 3 or 4 times, "Thank you, lady. Thank you, lady," because we were sharing, because I was wondering about things, but I know he was working, so I couldn't say too much. But now I understand why I left that other group.
Yeah, but you gotta. don't forget, every group is still us trying to come together. So it's we have obligation to everybody's fair game to take with us, right?
I send stuff to this other gentleman who's head of it, but he doesn't like the balance of the feminine. He doesn't seem to comprehend or understand the balance that is necessary for for strength within and a spiritual woman or a spiritual man.
The beautiful part is this: 7 months before they announced COVID, we put a Facebook post out saying that we're going through a Corona chakra cleanse. It's a phoenix rising. It's a cycle, 558 years. It's on the Egyptian walls. It's in the Bible, Revelation 12:1. We predicted that we're going to go through a Corona chakra cleanse. Okay. And then 7 months later, they said the coronavirus, because it's astrological. Our brothers and sisters out there think they can stop this natural process called induce of love, and it can't be stopped. It can't be stopped. So it's going to happen. Babylon falls. It always falls. I've gone back and looked at all the pandemics, and I can show you them in the charts. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. We're way more powerful than we even imagine. But that's the ticket. You got to imagine your way through this and know the end game and feel it. Just like Michael Jordan, when he takes a basketball shot, he visualizes the whole shot before he ever takes it, watches it go through the hoop. Here's the basketball hit the ground. Here's the crowd cheer before he actually takes the shot. So if we feel we already won, and we feel we're already living in this community in the background, we're already manifesting. It comes. The whole world will change around you. There'll be some waves, and there'll be some karma trying to have love and forgiveness. It goes away, and then it just happens. That's the strength we truly have.
Claudia, can I respond just quickly to what you said? This all reminds me of a quote written by an author by the name of Nikos Kazantzakis, who was the Greek who wrote Zorba the Greek. And his quote is very short. It's, you have your brush, you have your paints, you paint paradise, and then in you go. We're the artists to our future. And
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why when you hear me speak, you'll hear me speak in only positive words.
Yes.
Because if I get you to imagine an image based on my trigger word that's not good, you're giving it strength. Yes. So when I speak, that makes beautiful, powerful messages, and you imagine it in a beautiful way, it gives that strength. But the not good is a force. Okay. That's like an explosion. But the good image is an acceleration. That's like gravity. Gravity is an acceleration because it's bringing two people together. That's love. Gravity is love. We're tethered to love. We can't escape it. You jump up, you're coming back down. Mama says, you're not going that way. So physics equals metaphysics, and that's what's written on the Egyptian walls. But you got to know the premise, and you got to be filled with love, or else you're not going to be able to see it because you can't open your eye.
Yeah.
Right.
Pointing to your third eye there.
Right.
You know, you understand why imagination is more powerful than knowledge.
Right. Right. So we're all saying the same thing. We all got to stick together. We all got to stick together. We all got to stick together. So I'm just reinforcing everything you guys said. Nothing new. Just that I can show you the magic in a chart. I can prove it. But most people won't. Nobody ever says show me, because you're just not there yet. They just don't, like, it's somebody that's totally like not where we're at as far as understanding where we're at. And it's not a race because we're infinite.
Well, I'm very much interested in speaking to you in regard to charts and in regard to, I know Janine Margeau or whatever, she's on, she used to be on YouTube. She comes from Calgary, and she's quite a card reader, but I could see that it's more about money now than anything. And I know when I did my website on it about education and changing, and I'd included Krishnamurti and different things like that, they'd say to me, well, what are your products? What are you selling? I don't want to sell anything.
I'm selling freedom.
Freedom, yeah.
For free. Yeah. Right. But it's not me. It's us. Look, it's just us reconvening. when you meet somebody, we were in past lives together and we're reconvening. When you truly know that we say, hey, we're going to meet at Dallas's and Wanda's place. We're going to go meet there. We're going to meet.
Yeah.
And here we are.
You're most welcome anytime. Claudio, there's a fellow who studied the Bible in terms of astrotheology, and his name is Micah Dank, and he did a video with Laura Nina in England, and I'd like to share that with you. I'll send you an email on that, because most fascinating. Perfect. And it would really resonate with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There's always a gem in a gift somebody sends you. Absolutely.
Oh, yes. Yes. And you and Laura are, as I say, you're a Christmas present. I met him on December 23rd as we were going into that meeting. And I go, oh boy, this is the best Christmas present ever. And I feel the same about you, Laura. You open our eyes and to look in a different direction. It's beautiful.
100%. 100%.
Well, I'm definitely feeling sharpened by iron in this call. So thank you for being the iron that sharpens iron. And yeah, I then it makes me think of iron as FER in French, and then it's like to defer to something is where my head goes when I think about words. So it's just my little thing, but we've all got our thing, and I'm grateful to be getting to learn more about other people's things. So thank you for sharing, Claudio. And if you can put your details in the chat, I know that many people would be interested in getting in touch, myself included. It's very valuable what you're offering, and the need to paint the vision so that it's not painted for us is essential. And figuring out how to move the energy as well so that it's not in us to create with too.
Right. And if there's something, let's say, like usually the signs are there, we're just not seeing them, right? So what happens is people say, I can't, why is this happening to me? And then we'll go look in the chart and say, well, this is why. And then usually there's somebody you haven't asked somebody for forgiveness yet. That's what usually it leads down to that. All tools lead down to the same path: self-forgiveness and then love, right? I wrote a 5-step process based on everything that I learned from everybody, right? And watch people use it and it changes them, because you've got to clear your muddy waters, the emoto muddy waters, right? That's the karmic waters. And when an alignment comes, the light can't pass through. So what does it do? You're in dis-ease. You're in jury. You're in jury. You're in your own judge and jury. You're under karmic, right? So then you can help. I don't know you, right? I don't know what you've cleared. So when I read a chart, it's got to be a discussion, right? I can't say, I don't do charts like people do them in Western astrology. It's got to be a discussion, in that way. It really does. So I put my email there, and then
beautiful.
Anybody, anytime. It's
awesome.
My passion.
Yay! Thank you so much. That's fantastic, Claudio. And I'll put my email there as well for anybody that wants to get in touch. There is a Peaceful Inner Warriors United Assembly group on Telegram as well, which everyone here I am getting to know better, and I'm excited to connect with all of you. So thank you for showing up. It has been 2 hours of the scheduled call. I just wanted to check in with Elle and Ken to see whether there was anything you wanted to contribute before we close the meeting tonight.
Well, I just want to thank everybody. It was a great time. I came in late, but I appreciate everything that everybody said, and I agree that we manifest our path. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ken. Beautiful to have you here.
Very nice. Well, I have one closing statement.
Whoop.
No, it's important, and that's Kenny's a good friend of mine. Ken stopped in from Ontario. He was here about 2 months ago. It was awesome. He brought a great man with him. The man he came across his nation with, right? Was
Gerard.
Gerard, yeah. And they spent that day here, day and a half here, 2 days maybe. But I'll tell you, it was beautiful. And our home's open to all of you, and that's important. And we're all brothers and sisters. Remember my words. We are. You know, I've met so many great people on my journey in our years, and it's your voice. It's power. Like I said, I manifest what I want, right? And I've, you know, when I get up in the morning to go hunt the elk, I already know I've already killed the elk. And some say it's savagery, but I already feel that energy, right? And you're not taking life, you're giving life, right? That's what we do, right? So we run the Zooms every day from 5 to 10. It's open room for everybody. It's on our website. Hit the Zoom channel, come in, tell your stuff, talk. And the contact page is very important. And we never ask for any money. It's about connecting brothers and sisters in the local, in their own area. You'd be surprised how many people really actually are listening. I mean, yesterday was amazing. I went to a rancher's house today with Ron yesterday. It was unbelievable. You know, you're not alone. People are questioning the nonsense, right?
Yeah.
I call them parasites. You guys don't like the word, but the parasitical system. I believe in a system of mutual respect. And you know, when I see Claudia, me and Claudia talk, okay, I see his heart. And you know, my wife's different than I am, and she's like she's equilibrium, which all you are the same to me. All you have a voice, and I want you guys to speak your voice, and nobody can ever stop you speaking your voice. Remember one thing: your voice is more powerful at your home. It's powerful. So 9 to 5 every day. Sorry, 5 to 10 every day. Pop in, and sometimes I just hit the record button. You know what? I'll sit there for 6 hours sometimes, and out of that conversation, there's so many powerful things, and I think it's one person that speaks up to the world that gives others confidence to speak against what's going on, the fraud of the system. And like I said, you know, when I saw Sheila 2 years ago, I went, "Oh yeah, she's on the way. She's on the way. She's figured it out." Man's gonna figure his problem out until they find their truth. The truth is them, and that's why I enjoy individuals that come in that have heart and love and they have a meaning. So other than that, thank you, Laura. It's been a pleasure, and like I said, it's your future. You manifest what you want to manifest. Like I said, I drive down the street. I said, I need this. This shows up. You know why? Because the Creator gives you what you want. The Creator created us all to be who we are now. So it's going to be exciting times the next 2 weeks. Like I said, I watched Neil yesterday, and nobody can stop the truth. And that's powerful. Thank you, Laura, for a great show tonight. And, you know, I watched it a few times. And each time you get more stronger and more deliberate what you're saying. And I thank you for tonight.
Thank you, Dallas. It's been wonderful to have you guys here. And Al, I want to give you an opportunity to share your piece because you've been here the entire time, and I'm so grateful to get to see your beautiful face again. It's been a long time.
Hi. Yes, I've been pretty quiet just here on my bed, but it's so interesting and so fun, and I'm grateful that you invited me, and it's nice to see you directly as well. But yeah, I want to know a lot more about this, and I'd be very delighted to join you all again. Oh, and I have my glasses on, so it's reflective. Hi, everybody. Thank you for all your tidbits and all your knowledge and for all your time. I really thought this was wonderful.
Yay! Well, I am so grateful for each of you. Thank you again. I will post this to the Peaceful Inner Warriors United YouTube channel. I do have a channel in my name, which is Laura J.E. Hamilton, is what I go by online. So that has over 1,000 videos. I've been at this for a long time. But the Peaceful Inner Warriors United channel is pretty new. I only started it in October, so I'm putting all of the group discussions and videos and calls because I do want that to be more of a community space where we come forward and each of our voices do matter because we each do have different veins to contribute to make this masterpiece that we're all part of. So that's where this will be posted, and to the Telegram group is where I share the most, as I've mentioned, and I'm grateful to have got to connect with each of you. And I'm grateful for feedback and the challenging conversations that stretch us beyond what we thought before so that we can grow and be more without needing to be any more than we actually are, just to see what was already there underneath of it all. So it's a bit of a paradox. That's a paradox that's docking us with all these ports and imports of mind and all the rest. But then we get into the fun world of words and why we're learning to wield ours more responsibly with our hand and the pen we can take up to make claims, take names, and actually bring about the change we seek in this place. So thank you again.